Okay, everyone should be recording now. I'm going to clap.
Can you ask for confirmation? You're being a bad leader.
Is everybody recording?
I'm recording.
3, 2, 1, clap.
Okay. That'll be something we can work with. We can work with that.
Mine is like 35 seconds in the clap, Chad, so I hope this helps you. Or you.
Yeah,
one of those was not a clap.
That's going to help. Rush, because you led the clap, do you want to lead the episode?
Yeah, I did have one topic I want to talk to Jason about, and I guess talking counter as a whole here. I did walk in on the episode with Hooksy.
Yeah, you did.
So first of all, I would like to apologize. I wanted to show my friend the little camping set. But also, I did take a nice little picture on my film camera. And it is a film camera, so I have to go through I have to buy film, I have to get it developed and all this kind of stuff. And I did ask you to make it the thumbnail of the episode.
You did ask me to make it the thumbnail of the episode.
And I don't think it's happened yet, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, what happened was you asked me to make it the thumbnail of the episode like a week after it was released.
I believe it was a few days after it was released, because I went back home, and the day I landed, I handed in the film to the film lab. And the day after that, I had the pictures, so I don't know.
Okay, so maybe it was 4 days deep
Rush,
into the episode.
I saw Hugo do the same thing, so whose idea was it originally?
What? The
film camera.
The cameras? Yeah. Well, in Cologne, I bought a few and handed them out to certain people. And the plan was to do kind of like a little competition with a disposable camera. And that competition didn't actually happen just because the weather during Cologne was dreadful, if you remember. So I don't know, I kind of just got into film a little bit. I think the process is quite fun. You take a picture, you have no idea what it looks like, you get it developed, it looks terrible, and then a picture you think is terrible actually looks kind of good. So I don't know, films, it's fun.
So mine got lost in the mail?
Well, if you want to be a part of it, next Cato or something, we can redo it.
Russia's photography club?
It is almost like a book club, but for cameras.
For pictures.
I thought the plan was pretty good. We were going to pick like 3 locations or whatever, all go to the location, and whoever takes the best picture, we were going to have like the photo team rate it and stuff.
I kind of just feel that organically around the event of like whatever tickles your fancy, right? Like, things that are candid, or, some photos of some people that you're working with, or maybe you have a cool angle of the way the stage looks. Like, that's all event-related stuff, and you don't have to fucking plan for people to go to different locations.
True, well, there was freestyle included in the competition as well, which can be anything, so...
I've seen you organize the start of a podcast, Rush. I don't think you're going to be able to organize a photography club meeting in a foreign city.
Mate, he's talking...
Maybe Cato, we tried again.
You're talking about having like a skateboard tournament worth of rating. Oh, yeah, you've got these set tricks you've got to do, and then you get freestyle minute. What are you talking about, bro? Just take some fucking pictures.
The thing is, well, it was Helena who's going to review them, and a lot of us know she's a big fan of Starbucks. I don't know if I can say brands, but she likes Starbucks. So we were going to buy a Starbucks and stuff, kind of like a little bribery.
What? So
that's also Helena, for people at home, is the head of photography at ESL.
It goes so deep.
She was the judge.
But why do you need to be bribing? What were you?
I want to win.
But it's just pride. Like, there's nothing. And wouldn't the winning be taking the coolest photo?
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, in Cato, we'll probably do it again. So
I think
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this.
The location Rush picked is usually people aren't comfortable at those establishments with cameras. So that adds an extra.
Well, I was going to pick the Dom. I was going to pick the Dom, maybe Media Park in Cologne.
Yeah, sure, but what it ended up being
spots.
was something a lot more different.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, I haven't even seen half the pictures. Like, Hugo still, I think he told me he had 5 pictures.
He was taking them in Pro League. He was taking some more in Pro League.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
He'll probably, but then you've got to follow through, and you've got to get them developed. And how common is it?
Getting talent involved was probably a mistake, honestly, because that disposable camera, I don't think will ever get developed.
Well, that's the thing. So you've got to really chase Hugo up about this. But what type of services are available for people looking to get film developed in 2023, Rush? It used to be back in the day, every camera store you'd have to go and you'd wang it in there and they'd develop them for you.
Do they still do 1 hour photographs?
No, not in Cologne. I'll tell you that much. But the place I go to is pretty quick. I take it and then the next day they have prints and the files.
So so digitally you're able to. Yeah. So how have they done that?
What do you mean, how they done that? They scan them, bro.
Okay, well that's the answer. They scan them. Don't sound like I should have known that.
Film. Yeah, true. Actually, yeah.
I'm not a photographer like you.
They scan the film.
It's nice. The digital pictures that he sent me, it gives off a very like '90s retro vibe going on. You know, like
a little classic vibe.
Yeah, it's got.
You know what? Maybe I'll Photoshop myself into the one with Hooksy.
Yeah.
And maybe put Chad somewhere in the background, and then.
But I wasn't on the episode. Why would you put us in there if we weren't? Like that's false advertising.
Well, it's not the thumbnail for the last, the Hooksy episode.
He can have you crawling out of the tent. You know, you could just be in the background, poking your head up.
That sounds all right.
How skilled are you at Photoshop these days, Rush? You've really come a long way.
You've seen a lot of my Photoshops, man. You've seen a lot of them.
Yeah, well,
and the Henry one is still some of my best work.
The Henry one actually looks real. I can't quite believe the Henry one. It's like I can see Henry decked out with a bunch of Nerf guns, like you've depicted. It is probably some of your best work.
That is a good one.
But most of your efforts on the internet, Rush, in recent history have come through a game mode called Danger Zone, and as the game mode not being shipped to CS2 on release, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Any thoughts on that matter? I think I honestly think it will come, to be honest.
Yeah, but start at the top. Were you disappointed? Different? Were you heartbroken? Do you feel betrayed?
I will say, I got whipped up in a frenzy, I would say, for that Wednesday when the game released, and I maybe expected just some content and stuff like that. Like I expected the bug fixes as a minimum, and which technically are the most important things, to include in the release. Yeah, technically. But I definitely got whipped up in a frenzy, the final day, the dawn of the final day. So, when the update did hit, it took even a while for the patch notes. I was watching streams with fake timers and stuff. I was fully whipped up.
You were sussed up.
Yes, very much so. So I was a little, I hope something,
Say again, you fuck.
Basically yeah.
Why are you doing this? You don't talk like this.
And yeah.
Have you had your ADHD meds this morning, Rush? What's going on, man?
But I am looking forward to Danger Zone. We
let you out of the cage. We have to do one. We give you the reins to start the reshoot of the start of the episode, and this is what you. I thought you had some sauce for us today. I thought you were coming.
I told you I got nothing.
I thought you were coming thick and pumped. I thought you were coming ready to go.
Yeah, I got nothing.
It's a Thursday. You took 2 days off at the start of the week.
There's been some big news, Rush. There's some easy things to grasp out for.
Pro League's over. You've been to a wedding. I thought you'd be juiced to the gills, man. Talk about the wedding.
I stapled my thumb at the wedding. I've never done that before.
What?
I fully staple. You know a stapler?
To what?
Yeah, I know. First of all, why is there a stapler just hanging around at a wedding somewhere?
I went the day before just to help a little bit with some of the setup.
Yeah, of course.
Rigging the caster mics and stuff. But I accidentally stapled my thumb fully. The staple was flush against my thumb.
How did you do that?
I was trying to fix it.
The stapler. You were trying to fix the stapler.
I think Chad, you would do a great job as Rushley with the co-caster for a royal wedding to commentate it.
It could be. I think just getting Rush to talk about his observations would be hilarious to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you're also very good at getting hyped up by small things. So
she said I do.
Yeah, I see it.
This guy didn't bow properly. Oh my God, what a disgrace!
Yeah, I can see that.
It's nice. You can see 2 holes in the thumb, and then it's completely fine. It didn't bruise or anything. It was a low profile staple. I'll say that much. So I am okay. I'm all right. But
how did you get the staple out? Did you just pull it out with your fingers?
I just pulled it out, yeah. I just got it and pulled it out.
That would have taken some real grit.
That hurt a little bit when I pulled it out. But when it went in, I didn't feel too much. But when it came out, then I really felt it. But
were you bleeding?
It was all right.
Were you gushing blood?
Not really,
no.
The holes were so tiny, there was really not much blood at all.
Was there...
I just washed my hands.
Any discussion about a tetanus shot? Rushing to hospital? When was your last tetanus shot?
I did make the mistake of Googling a staple in the thumb, and it did mention a tetanus shot, and then I just closed it and tried to forget. Yeah, I ever read it, to be honest. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I burned myself the other day, and I was almost about to Google that, and I was like, why am I going to Google that? It's the smallest burn ever. It's going to be fine.
It's going to say put some cold water on it, probably.
Well, take some care of yourself, Rushley.
Yeah, I was cooking some duck in a pan, and a piece of fat just got on my finger in it.
Duck fat's a delicious thing.
It is delicious. But I think the thing is with burns, if it hurts at the beginning, that's a good thing. If it doesn't hurt, then that's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, what? Can you?
I think he's trying to make the comparison to like the 3rd-degree burns that destroy the nerves, so you don't actually feel the pain.
You feel nothing. You feel nothing.
This is just a tiny little drop of duck fat that splattered out of a pan.
I'm not saying tiny. It was like surprisingly a big amount. I'll send a picture. It's like a layer of my skin is gone. Let me put it that way. But it is a small area.
Okay, all right.
But that hurt a lot, and now I don't feel it at all. So it's pretty good now.
I think my mum would say back in the day, you're in the wars, Rushley. Do you have any?
At the moment, yeah. At the moment, every time I do this, like the staple and the burn, I was like, fuck, man, why have I done that? And then I'm like, is this life now for the next day or two?
Any other trauma that the viewers should be aware of?
I don't think so. I haven't stubbed my toe in a while either, so I think we're all good, to be honest.
All right. I think I'm happy we have that safety check of your health. Rush, do you want us to let you go?
Yeah, can do. I got a lot of messages and stuff to be
honest.
Well,
you are a busy man.
I'm busy, honestly. I'm busy. And that's not even a lie. I've actually got a lot of messages.
Yeah, so you stop the recording, upload it to Google Drive and send it to me, and you go take care of those messages.
That's a WAV file, yeah? Or MP3, Jason?
Throw it as doesn't matter, really. Throw it as a WAV.
Do you want that on G Drive or WeTransfer or something?
Yeah, give a little Google Drive for me.
All right. Do you want me to polish it up at all, or?
I don't know.
You're good, man.
Edit it, man. Yeah. It's all good. It'll be me, man.
You're all good.
Jason's in a hotel right now. Rush.
My mic quality's fine, right?
Yeah, you sound really good.
All right. Peace out.
See you. All right.
Catch you in a bit.
See ya.
Peace.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got rid of him. It's always great to hear that Rush is doing well. His
Burning
health,
himself.
Yeah, at an all-time main focus on the episode of Talking Counter. But Jason, you are not at home still.
No, I took off over to Belfast in Ireland to cast with Dinko. There was a little complication getting for every non-EU person getting into Copenhagen for the Blast Showdown was not able to make it. So it's like COVID times again. So I flew, instead of flying home, I flew to Ireland, casting from Dinko's apartment. Scrawny and Launders are back in Canada and Toronto and Montreal. They're casting separately from their homes. Only the desk is in Copenhagen.
Which does have Bubsky and Kirby on it.
Yeah,
with
does have
Maniac
Bubsky
hosting
and Kirby, with Maniac hosting and Pimp as a rotation.
It's very Danish.
I like it. It's extremely Danish.
And I only imagine what those lads get up to when they're talking Danish on the TV too. They're just going wild with it. So if Pimp's bringing a bit of that out of the Bubsky on the air, that could be some fun entertainment.
Yeah. Were Dinko's parents weirded out when you came?
I still haven't met Dinko's parents.
How are you going to meet him, Jason? Are you going to take
They don't come out of their room or what?
It'd be nice to little Dinko. He's got his own little apartment. He's got a nice little setup.
He's been a big man for a while. Little Dinko was living on his own in Poland for a while as well. Yeah. Even though he's a small lad. Well, he's a tall lad, but he's he's trying to bulk up. He's got that young man metabolism still. Must be nice.
I didn't realize this, but living in Belfast, it's like a 2-hour bus trip to get to the Dublin airport. So every time Dinko goes to an event, he's got to hop on a 2-hour bus.
Did you see any of the
It feels excessive.
It does seem excessive.
Like, how is what's Belfast like?
The little I've seen of it, it's nice. I don't really know how to describe it, actually, to be honest.
What type of weather you running with at the moment,
Well,
Jason?
it's cold and it's rainy, constantly raining. Overcast, which I've been told is pretty much the standard go-to here in Ireland. They had a week of good weather this year, of like sunny and warm.
Wait. They weren't boasting about that, were they?
No, they're not bragging or anything. They were just explaining to me that I was like, even in the summer, like it doesn't get nice out for like a month, and they're like, no, we had like 5 days, like a week. And I was like, okay. But it's cool. I love towns like this that have, like cities like this that have, like, you can tell like the age and the character of the building. So it's a bunch of like brick buildings. You can see some are like super old. Architecture is really cool. And they're just like really like nondescript like pubs and restaurants that you could just kind of walk into. I haven't quite explored yet. These past 2 days have been very like recovery focused. Early nights at the hotel. Get to sleep as soon as possible. So
you weren't in line at Belfast City Hall or going to Titanic Belfast or the Ulster Museum. What else is there to do?
I don't think I'm going to do the Titanic Museum. That I really have no interest in that, to be completely honest with you. But I think tomorrow I'm going to go for like a little hike up the mountains,
Republican,
or up the hills, I guess.
O'Toole, of course.
Yeah, big name here. All the cab drivers are like, "Oh, you have Irish heritage," and I'm like, "Yep, sure do."
Holy shit! It is actually miserable there for people who like play with normal weather. This isn't to do with the taxi drivers or Jason's last name. I know I was just an outburst in that moment. But I looked it up. Belfast. That's where you are, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, right now, 13 degrees Celsius, right? With just fucking rain like you can't imagine. The wind, 24 kilometers an hour. Humidity, 92%. And if we put that in Fahrenheit, that's freedom units for everybody playing at home. That's 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which just sounds fucked.
I'm just looking at like the 10-day forecast, and it's like literally 7 of the next 10 days have like 60 to 70% or higher chance of rain.
I'm looking right now. Malta is currently 27 degrees. It's going to be 28 today.
You want me to blow your mind?
Beautiful.
Even though I think Chad did this in an earlier episode.
Yeah, I already know the percentages and the chance of rain.
No, but do it again, Janko.
Yeah. Well,
do it again.
Give us your sales pitch.
That percentage you have on your phone, that's not the chance of rain. That's the area that's going to be covered by precipitation.
But I feel that has been debunked in recent history.
Has it? Am I wrong again?
Well, this is it. I think it's changed back. I think I heard my understanding, was that the percentage was to do with the chance of the chance of rain, right? Then someone was like, "Oh no, it's the area that is covered." Yeah. And then I was reading recently that it is the chance of rain again. So let's have a look. What does the... I know those aren't words. This isn't good for an audio-only podcast. I imagine that for the... Hold up, we're typing. What does the probability of precipitation, POP, simply describes the probability that the forecast grid/point in question will receive at least 0.01 of rain. So in this example, there is a 40% probability for at least a 0.01 rain. See, I'm going. So
it doesn't even address the intensity of the raining.
What does 70% chance of precipitation mean? Make sure the area is covered. So I feel like if I'm going to investigate this and say it with any authority, I should probably spend more research than just fucking 30 seconds of trying to Google it. So let's do this. Let's do this. Why don't we get the people who listen at home? We'll use it as the poll this week. You know, we can let the people at home do the research, and they can tell us the answer to the question and be like, "You guys are fucking idiots." Which that's probably the general operating procedure for most of us most of the time. Okay, Belfast, Janko. You're a bit gruff, mate.
Okay.
Do you want to let everyone know why you're a bit gruff?
Gruff? I've never heard that word before.
Oh, Jason, have you heard gruff before?
I have heard gruff before.
Gruff is like rough and low in pitch.
Yeah, just gravelly. You know, like an early morning voice.
Yeah. Okay.
Hoarse is another one.
Okay, we have that. We call it like the morning voice. Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hungover as fuck. Basically what it is. Met a couple of friends last night. You know, I've been away for 5 weeks, and it was like unplanned, but the night sort of dragged out.
That's how they always go.
But those are the best nights, to be honest. Like when you don't plan for it. So, yeah, just hungover.
What's the alcohol of choice in an unplanned evening?
Well, we went to this pub first, so it was beer. But then we went to this other place and switched to whiskey. And that's, trouble, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's normally... How does the saying go? I used to know once upon a time. It's like beer before whiskey. Oh, no, spirits.
Liquor before beer.
Yeah,
you're in the clear.
Yeah.
Beer before liquor, never been sicker.
Yeah. So, Janko went for that combination.
But yeah, it's all right, bro. When I woke up like an hour ago, I did consider just sending you guys a message, and it was like, but God bless my girlfriend. You know, she brought me like an aspirin, made me a sandwich. So I don't sound much better, but I do feel like I can do this now. So
I feel like $1 million.
Food goes a long way, especially and just sculling a bottle of water. I've noticed when I drink, and this is just in general, and it's probably not the healthiest way to drink water, but instead of just like maybe having a gulp or two of water every now and again, I just find that when I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty thirsty now, I'll just drink 500 ml of water and just go, yeah, all right. Now I don't need to drink for a while. Yeah. Because, sitting and reminding myself to drink every couple of minutes or whatever, fuck that. If I just smash the 500, it's probably bad for my kidneys, but it just seems more efficient for me. As Jason takes a big swig.
I would hope that your kidneys could handle that 500 mils of water.
Yeah, like it's not like I'm trying to drink like 3 or 4 liters. Like I don't think I'd be able to do that in a sitting anyway. But like I just sit there, I just smash it. It's gone. It's like, okay, well, I just find, these little tactics in life, I can have more time doing nothing if I. Okay, no, it's all right. Pro League's ended. I have things to do. All right, guys, we do still have things to do. Like Janko went and celebrated being home and seeing some friends. That's quite nice. I was thinking when I go back to Australia for IEM Sydney, I'm going to go back to Perth for a week. I booked my flights for that yesterday. I really should have sorted it out much earlier, but it's sorted now.
Oh my god, bro! I got my flights like the other day as well. So the first thing I do is call to see whether I can upgrade, because I'm gonna come in late. I have one of my friends I saw last night. He's getting married on the 15th, so 10 days from now or whatever, and I'm the best man. So
oh shit.
So my first flight out is at 7 a.m. on Monday, where I'm just like gonna come home from the wedding, shower, and go to the airport, and then it's Belgrade to Istanbul, Istanbul to Singapore, Singapore to Sydney, 26 hours travel.
Well,
in economy,
you enjoy that one.
There's no seats available in business or anything. So I think for the first time I'll have to like pop a pill or something and just put myself to sleep.
That's the thing. It's fucking brutal. Doing that long travel, that's one of the most brutal things, I think. And it's if you do it all the time, you can become acclimatized to it, but it's still fucking brutal. Like
no, but there's nothing.
It's slowly killing.
There's nothing like, for example, like you go to LA, which is still very far away, but it's like I have a flight and an hour and a half layover, and then I fly for 11 hours and I'm there. But 2 layovers, and like the third flight is 7 hours. Like I have a hour and a half flight, a 12-hour flight, and a 7-hour flight. It's like, fuck's sake, will this ever end?
Yeah, I was looking at, so I actually have a really good route to get to Oz because I'm going back to Perth, right? So I'm going to fly into Perth and then just get a domestic flight from Perth to Sydney to be there on time. Yeah, because
that's 5 extra hours, right? Perth to Sydney is like 5 hours or something.
But my route is really good. I didn't realize this until I actually thought, I'm going to have to go to Germany or the UK or something to get like a decent flight.
You're doing Dubai?
It's Malta to Dubai and then Dubai straight to Perth. It's fucking 20 hours for that. It's awesome. Like that leg, it looks sick.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, but
and
you
I saw
have
it. I was like, oh my god.
Cyprus, right before Dubai, or?
Maybe you've just rained on it and they didn't put it on here. That could be the case. Let me check.
Because they just like sort of land to get people to board, and then they just take off again.
Fuel up, add people, and get out of there.
Well, here it's got a. It just says Malta to Dubai, but maybe like it doesn't have anything else here on the. No, it just says Malta to Dubai. Doesn't have any stuff.
Because I was surprised, dude. I saw the Emirates plane on the Malta airport. I mean, that's a 777. It's a long-haul airplane. I'm like, how is there enough runway for this plane to land and take off here?
I was thinking the same thing because when I went out to the airport for when Patsy was arriving and we were filming that like meme content, like I saw an Emirates plane there and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, this doesn't. I haven't seen one of these here, and I know that they were trying to build like something a bigger airport or an airport, but it doesn't. I didn't realize like the runway would, like you're saying, because it is a small island, it's a small place, but that's good. That really opens up the world to me if that's possible. It makes going back to Australia not seem that fucking unreasonable. Like, just, what is it here? It's a 7.5 hour flight from Malta to, where are we? Malta to Dubai. And then from Dubai to Perth is 10 hours and 50 minutes.
What? No. You're wrong. 7.5 hours.
Here. Yeah.
That's because you have the stop, believe me. Bro, from Belgrade.
Yeah, you're right. Malta, Dubai, and then stops one stop. Why doesn't it fucking say that here then?
I've never been on a flight that had to just like do a pit stop.
I know in Oz there's some that like it'll go through and it'll stop in like Sydney and then pick up more passengers and take them to Perth. But when they land in Perth, they'd still have to go through international. Like they'd have to take their passport to. I think my sister's done that before. But this is obviously through different countries, so that's even interesting.
Yeah, it's because like, for some of those trips, it's like it's not worth it to stop. Just like it's not worth it for them to have a Dubai Malta flight because it would be half empty. But if you combine it with like Cyprus, then all of a sudden, those two destinations combined can maybe fill a plane, right? Like Lufthansa had that. You know, when you were looking at flights you had like Lufthansa Riyadh, but after that the plane goes to Bahrain, and then from Bahrain it goes back to Frankfurt.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, that kind of sucks, but I don't know. Either way, 20 hours, that's pretty reasonable. And then obviously to Sydney and across, but it should be good. Like, I think that's not a crazy route. And then I'm going to go back and stay in Perth for a week before going home, go see my family and stuff. And it's always quite daunting going home for me for some reason.
How long has it been?
I was home at Christmas time, but that was the first I'd been home since COVID. Before that, my parents came out to Malta in the middle of last year. So it's always few and far between, but I don't like keep up a lot of connections with people back home. So it's like you've been away for 5 weeks and then going out and getting hungover and stuff because you're seeing your mates. I'm trying to think what even connection I have to people back home. I have very few. Like it's just my family, and then it's maybe 2 or 3 people, and that's through my own like not keeping up relationships and stuff. But it's fucking hard when you're in different time zones, other side of the world. Like I don't even like being on the phone call with my family, you know, let alone or I prefer to see people and be interacting with them and stuff. So it's one of these things. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be back in Perth for a week, but what the fuck am I going to do? Like my parents still work. I don't. All my friends down there and stuff have got like families, or they still have jobs and stuff too. So I guess I'm just gonna see what the weather's like. Maybe go sit on the beach all day and read a fucking book. That sounds pretty good, actually.
Go to a fucking beach.
Yeah,
just chill.
That's probably the best thing I can do, because there's no point like even trying to play down there. That's one of the things I'm like putting with CS2 out now. I want to try and put as much time into it as possible, so when we're talking about it, we have a good like grasp of the way it actually feels and all this kind of stuff. So not going to be able to play for a week in Oz. I think I might get the withdrawals, but it could be nice.
Dude, you will. I'm getting the withdrawals right now. I grinded it so hard during Pro League. I was playing like every night. 12-hour sessions. Haven't done that in like a decade. And then and now I'm in this hotel and I'm just like seeing all these updates come out and I'm just like, fuck, I wish I had a PC here. I wish I could tinker. I wish I could hop in a game. A deathmatchy. Just give me bots. I'll be fine. But I got nothing.
Bro, that's where the gaming laptops though, like, you know, I know they're not great, but that's where
No, I was just about to say, bro, for you and me as well, you just got a new PC. I have a sick PC back home. The game feels so good.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna get a new PC. I've gotten jealous when Chad got his. I've just been sat here like, you know what? I could use a new PC too.
What do you got at home, Jason?
I have the one from the Intel build a while ago.
Okay, so that would still have like a 20.
That was like 2019. Yeah, it's a good PC and it works. I don't need a new computer by any stretch of the imagination.
It's your livelihood.
But I'm thinking, you know, I have a couple of like online events that I'm doing towards the end of the year, and I'm thinking like, why not just have them, instead of paying me, just buy me the PC?
Okay, interesting tactic.
As payment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think like I kind of agree with Janko's sentiment in like the justification for getting a computer like this for us. For me, it's twofold. One, I played Counter-Strike my entire life, and now that I am an old man with some money, I would like to play on the best thing I possibly can. Because that's something that I always wanted as a kid, right? That's something that I keep reminding myself as well when I'm in Europe, and I'm just like, oh, I don't really feel like playing a pug. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, younger you would have fucking died to have played a pug against decent players on 40 ping or less in Europe. Like, just go fucking play, you idiot. But that's the thing with the having the PC. I also have a 3060, because Andre, I don't know if you guys, if I sent your his contact to any of you guys when you're in Malta, but I do to most of the players when they're here and they're like, oh, do you ever know a sound card, or do I need a new mouse? And when different people have moved here, they wanted to build PCs. So this is kind of the guy I use on the island for building.
You have a PC building guy.
Well, yeah, but he owns like a LAN cafe and stuff here, and he's a counter. He watches Counter-Strike. He's a fan of it, and so he built this PC for me. He built the other PC I had as well, and he said that there's like 3060 monitors, 3060. Why am I saying 3060? That's a fucking graphics card. 360 monitors coming to the island soon. So that's what I want to get as well, to just have the full upgrade, because I got the 4090.
Yep.
I got the 7800X3D, which Rushley and Jay told me to get, which is the best processor apparently for Counter-Strike. Sorry to anybody out there who's hearing me say that and going, this guy's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, there's some processor people out there just getting angry listening to that sentence.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what I'm saying. All I know is, as Janko pointed out, it runs fucking great. My biggest issue is ping, right? And that's always going to be my biggest issue. But the game itself, I've infrequently have issues. Like it's when I know that when I first load the maps, on this brand new PC, I had to fly around them or whatever to get like the chugginess out. Someone said it was like loading the shaders or some shit like that. But after that, it's felt really smooth. It's felt good. It hasn't felt like it did during the beta or on an older rig, which is a shame, because what I'm saying is I have the state-of-the-art fucking tech and it feels amazing, and not everybody's going to have that.
How's the game feeling with these updates? Is it feeling a little bit better? Because like when we were there, every update made it feel a little bit better.
I think performance-wise, it seems to be trending in that way, but it can be hit and miss for some people when those issues crop up. And it's also one of these things with different builds, and everyone is experiencing different issues. So I think the biggest complaint point still seems to be this sub-tick feeling like people are dying behind walls or that, right? That seems to be one of the biggest concerns. But and here's another one, and I'll cop this. Maybe I need to try and test this. I need to do a job of trying to test this today. But I tweeted out some like alias binds yesterday, and I didn't say what it did in the tweet. I just said, put this in your auto exec and try it, right? And tell me how it feels. But
put this in your pipe and smoke it.
The way these aliases are, they're essentially, from what was explained to me, in the same key press, making the movement and the release of the movement happen, right? So as opposed to sub-tick, where apparently it's waiting for the next tick. I'm probably butchering the explanation of this. I should have had Jay or Rush explain this. But anyway, it makes the movement, to me, feel more responsive. And I'm sure I can test this like almost one for one if I go and have the binds off in an offline server and then execute the binds and try it with it on, and just hold the key for a period of time and then just see how far I move or things like that.
If you keep running after you let go.
Yeah, because look, there has been a lot of stuff that they removed those like legacy commands with the netcode that never did anything. It's like, well, if that was us playing with interp, and then that's you saying those commands never did anything, lol, you're all idiots, we've removed it. I kind of hope that's not the same thing here. Like, I hope that there is actually something that these commands do, because if that's the case, because it does feel better to me, if it would be easy for Valve to implement this, I think it would feel better for everybody.
You know what's also weird? I don't think weird is a good word, but I had this sudden realization the other day when I was on TeamSpeak and we were having these conversations, and people were like, it's like Rushley's TeamSpeak is actually at the forefront of CS2, like sort of, you know, like it's where great minds like sort of meet and discuss these things. And I asked you the same thing: how many of the like pro players do you think know about these like little tidbits? And you were actually pretty pessimistic about it. Like, you thought like most won't know about these like small mechanics and gimmicks and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's normally the case, right? The uptick from the pros is pretty slow on it. There's some of them who are super nerdy, and and I think this also is backed up, at least in my mind, by the concept of pros still using like 4x3 stretched or black bars. It may be that they actually feel that they play better on that, right? But definitively, having I've got native res, I can see more. Like, I can actually see more. Like, I'm not sure how that could possibly be a bad thing. I have more information on my screen, right? So, or the Krieg is a good example on the org, right? They were good for so long, Valve had to change the price point to get anybody to notice. Whereas a lot of these things people have to kind of look at. But people like Rops, for example, he's looking at all these geeky things. That's the type of player he is. He's the type of guy who looks into these details, because we know he's doing these fucking net graph, smoke, lineup, wizardry things. Like Justin, who's in here a lot, he's the type of guy who also looks into all these type of details. So talking to him about some of these commands and stuff Whereas I don't know. I think it's probably 50-50. I reckon 50% probably geek out and 50% probably don't. That's a nice down the middle answer I can give.
I don't know what it is, but I've tried so many times to get to like native res and get used to it, and I feel like I feel like I'm absolute shit with native res. I still play 4-3. Like it's like
crazy.
It's like feeling like coming home. Like I can't make the switch for some reason.
Stretched?
Like it's what's that?
Stretched.
Yeah, stretched. I don't use black bars. Fuck that shit. But like on the bigger res, I feel like on a native res, I feel like my aim in like the open heads up duels, like medium range and long range, is like sharper. But like the scrappy fights, I feel like always fucking suck. You know, like if you're trying to entry for an execute or into a situation, like I don't know, like it feels so fucking awkward and like foreign to me. I've made the switch so many times to native and been like I'm sticking with it, and I can't handle it. I always switch back.
Yeah, for me it's vice versa, because it's like I always played black bars, and then like when you stretch, it just the game is so faster. Like, you know, the feeling, right? Obviously, like the movement of the mouse and all of that stuff, and also the discrepancy between horizontal and vertical mouse movement is like, I tried a couple of times because obviously, you know, I also played with Nico and he was insane and he used stretch, so I was like, maybe it's
maybe there's something to this.
Maybe that's like what makes it like easy for him, and I'm like, well, no, I just suck. He's just better.
I found when we were working a lot back in the 2017, 2018s, where it was event to event to event, and that's back when I was a lot more displaced than I am now. Having a computer in a home where I could actually just go and play more frequently was not a common occurrence, right? So in that time where I was away from playing a lot, I thought I've lost whatever
resolution allegiance you had.
And I thought, well, I may as well just, once I start playing again, just go with what would make the most sense. And even back then I looked at a player like Rops and went, okay, this is somebody who is obviously looking at some of the details of the game. So I just went, well, fucking Rops is using native and he's mechanically a very strong player. Then maybe there's a good reason for it. But that's the same with all of it. There is really a lot of it that is feel. I think there's certain things that, you know, have perks them that just make them better from, you know, but then at the end of the day, if you're performing better as a player, as an individual, then it only matters what you like, right? When Halzerk's using that weird fucking picture-in-picture basically fucking screen, like it's not even black bars, it's just a black box, and he's got this little fucking square in them, and he's playing with this massive crosshair, and he's still fragging. Well, that's all that matters. All that matters is that he's getting these kills. So that's kind of one of the weird quirks with Counter-Strike players and settings, which is, I'm looking at some of these early videos and players have got their video settings on. And I'm looking at that going, well, some of these video settings they've selected don't make sense because it's giving them less shadows, or they don't have the ambient occlusion thing on, which won't show the shadow next to the wall when they're walking down the stairs like this. So that's a disadvantage. And it's like, well, but if they play better like this, then I guess that's all that matters. Maybe with some of the stuff they need to have it on for the shadow shit. I feel like you'd be wanting in CS2 to be getting all the advantages in the world with that information. You see some of that stuff, this is things like that, right? This is what I've been pondering about. Do we, as a community, need to push back loudly about those shadow type of positions? Do we need to measure where some are more overpowered than others, or do we just let these naturally try and work themselves out? Because that's the only way that things are going to get changed, is if people make a big enough issue of it. If we just have these things that we think are, oh yeah, this isn't great, but whatever, and we leave it, then Valve will go, well, they don't really care enough about this for us to remove it, so it must be okay. It must be one of the things that they're willing to get used to. Yeah, what are the things that we're willing to get used to?
I don't like it because I felt like shadows were, like, for that part, the competitive advantage were in a really good spot before. Like, it was a thing in some spots, and, you know, everyone learned it. And even when you knew it, like, it's not a guarantee, you know, of getting a kill just because there's a shadow. But a couple of the ancient ones nowadays, it's like, it is actually kind of silly. Actually,
they're way more egregious now.
Yeah, this is going to sound weird, but it's like, it's actually so ridiculous where you can actually play around it, right? Like, you know, you're so aware in Temple or in A main of it, like that. I mean, I've had these fights where, like, I see his shadow, but I'm, you know, because you see it so early, you're so expectant, and then it's like the fight itself becomes a little bit weird. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, yeah,
well,
it's
almost like
you're anticipating the swing.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can use it from both sides. Like if you know you're casting a shadow, it can almost like freeze someone and slow them down because they are going to be expecting the fight, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you have an AWP at A and he sees the shadow and the shadow keeps moving around. Of course he's going to sit there and wait for the guy to swing. He's going to be glued to that position.
Or like if you see that shadow in Temple on Ancient and you're like trying to retake the bomb site, like are you going to want to go Temple if you see that shadow before you've even stepped in? Like are you going to make that trek through the long hallway knowing at any point there can be a fight? Like it could be interesting the way it influences. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's interesting to look at the ways in which it can be used from the other side as well.
I think it's harder now to have such a locked opinion for me on a lot of these details because I have been through a lot of iterations of Counter-Strike now, and I'm also not a professional player anymore. Like before, when there was other iterations like 1.6, Source, all those things. So I was pro in Source. I wasn't in 1.6, but I was there for like the transition of the games or both games being out at the same time. And there was just certain core, I guess it's called beliefs of like the way that the game should be or should function from people, right? Like a lot of people didn't like Source because it was bigger, it felt clunkier, felt like there was more run and gun, there was no wall bangs. There was lots of things that came out with Source that was like, oh, this isn't like, everybody would have probably liked a reskinned version of 1.6 on the Source engine. That's what I think. If everybody could have picked what they could have had back then, that would have been it.
They tried, didn't they? There wasn't it, what was it called? Like CS Pro mod?
Yeah, but that was made by like Alex Garfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was developed by a bunch of like the figureheads of the scene. I mean, it was in development hell. It took like 5-6 years to even get it to like a decent enough place, and by that point, like there was the
Global Offensive became not terrible.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like Global Offensive kind of killed it, but I mean, if that had come out earlier, but here's the problem. Like with the way the scene is structured is, no matter how many changes we could make in that sense, like say we came up with like pro settings of like lessen the shadows that are being given off, or I don't know if you guys saw the video of that guy who like cleaned up Inferno and took a bunch of like the random clutter out as well. But none of that matters if Valve is going to use the standard stuff on the majors. Like
exactly, yeah, for sure. Well, that's also one of the new limitations we have on what's possible. Because back when it was just the community essentially deciding, like then someone would just have a mod that would go in the way, like Z-Block, for example, right? Yeah. So there would always be, we would always have a bit more control as a community over what we used as a consensus. Now it's essentially what we're being told we're going to be using, but we still would have influence in some way. Like that's what I'm saying. If people inherently against something or kick off against something or need something to be another way, like people keep talking about left hand and they keep talking about Bob. I don't know if they're going to get either of them, but they keep talking about them. So Valve know that it's something that people want. I don't think
Bob will get in, but I think left hand could get in. Like I don't understand. I don't see the world in which it doesn't make sense to at some point add left-handed models for people.
Like people say because it's like the shadows and everything in the model, like it would be pretty complicated like to make it happen. But my reply to that is just make it from your POV left hand, and then in game it's still like the gun is in the right hand, for the sake of the shadows and the model and stuff. I don't know if that's like, but that sounds like pretty possible.
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why they are going the way they're going with it, or not bringing it in right now. Like I couldn't even speculate. Like the shadow is the thing that, like, I don't know. Why do they? Why? I guess what you're saying, Janko, is why does it have to line up? Why is what people see in the server of your model has to be the same thing that you see on your screen? Essentially, right?
Exactly,
like that's right. So
I can understand the complications with it, like, if the model has to change every time, because you also have people now, they do it instead of switching the gun, they switch to left right hand. It's like
well, you could certainly like, I would assume as a developer you could lock that command so that you can't change it once you're in the game, right? Like you could prevent the switching back and forth.
Well, why? I would
imagine.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. This is why I think the game kind of has been framed, and I think I've referred to it as this. No, I've definitely have referred to it. This is like it's like feels like an open beta, right? That's one of the things discussed with Rush a little bit before was the lack of features in terms of game modes, which, for me, someone who played a lot of Danger Zone, it doesn't bother me that Danger Zone's not in the game now. My main focus is like the game being played in a 5v5. That's always been my main focus, and that's Valve's main focus right now, by the looks of things. And I guess there's people talking about it, okay, with the runway to the next major being already known, and when the qualifiers are going to have to start, getting the game into a point where it is ready to be competed upon in that is probably the main focus. But that doesn't like take away from the fact that the game is like, okay, it's playable now. It is like the game is playable, but constantly every day kinks are being ironed out. And I imagine on the other side of this, content in terms of other game modes or operation or other functionality and stuff is also being worked upon. So, but now at least we have all of the best Counter-Strike players in the world playing the game and identifying the bugs and also pushing and exploiting all of the possibilities of the game. Like, that's one of the biggest things. Like, exploiting not in a nefarious and, like, aggressively, like, in a way that's going to harm people, but in a way that, you know, okay, here's a boost we can do. What do you say about this, Valve or ESL or Blast, whoever's running the tournament? Like, what do we do about this? Is this legal? Should we be able to do a fucking pixel boost that takes us up onto the third story of Mirage? No, of course not.
I think ESL already has that document of like known pixel boosts as well, and they're already a list of like which ones are allowed and which ones aren't allowed. So, I mean, they're already compiling that stuff and that information and making sure players going into events know what is and isn't allowed. And I guess, you know, in one way, too, like, I can't imagine a team finding something and trying to exploit it to the degree that, like, Fnatic did with the boost in DreamHack Winter, Big did at PGL Krakow. Like, I think teams now also know and have seen the consequences of doing that, and I would imagine just want to stay away from those consequences, right? Like all those pixel boosts are going to be checked with admins ahead of time. We've been through this process. We've seen it fuck up. I think now there's a groundwork of how you go about this the right way so that, you know, nothing breaks a tournament, you know, even if it's
But how can you have a rule? Like, so this is where it will get blurry, right? Like, you could probably have examples of things, but if somebody doesn't show, right, that they don't bring forward and then they use it, it's hard to I guess, unless it's mega egregious in the sense that it's like boosting through the map or something fucking insane, right?
Which apparently is also possible in CS2.
yeah, well. But there's going to be a lot of that stuff to get ironed out, and I guess it's going to happen on steroids, at least from my understanding. Like, it almost feels like every day. It feels like every day there's almost like an update. Like last night there was another patch, but this one didn't feel like it did an awful lot. You know, this was removed model texture detail, very high setting as it was identical to high. And then there's a couple of miscellaneous things. Some
well, I like the don't just gloss over the crosshair outline now being now working for increments instead of whole numbers. For us,
that was my biggest
users,
concern. Yeah,
that's a big one.
I've never used a crosshair outline. Maybe I should give it a try.
Yeah, whack it on there. Give it a shot. Although you're down to you're playing with a dot nowadays, aren't you?
I've got the dot, but I've also got the dynamic crosshair around it. So, you know, there's still a bit of something happening. I think Henry's exclusively on the dot at the moment. The dot is always safe just for the headshots. If that's what you're looking for, you're probably in the right place.
Not great for spraying.
Definitely not. But this is a good bug. Fixed a bug where users in Germany were incorrectly identified as users in China. So they've definitely, you know, because I've seen some people have had routing going through different places, like people in a server in Warsaw routing through somewhere in Brazil. There's also been issues with people like there's like disconnects. I saw Nico was tweeting about having issues joining some servers. So as long as these things are just consistently being kind of fixed and people are reporting them and we're able to give information to Valve, then they can help. But otherwise, I guess this is the best way to get it done. Just play a shitload of the game.
I have to imagine with all these tournaments going to be on CS2 to close out the year and the amount of game time that pros are going to be putting into it, like it's going to go warp speed. Especially, well, and I guess the positive thing is, I mean, you never know, but with how hands-on Valve have been with the amount of updates we've had early on, even if they're just small ones, it feels like they're going to be pretty on top of things as the year kind of winds down.
I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like looking in some of the, I think NATO Southix had a video about it where throwing grenades off of walls, and if it hits like an odd pixel, it'll bounce back in your direction. And he had some examples, like one was like top mid on Inferno, throwing a very similar grenade over and over and over, and then like one little adjustment and it bounced back in his direction. There's one on Ancient, like coming through CT spawn and trying to bank a nade off a wall, and it bounces back and comes his way and blows him up. And I think that the way that I guess that's clipping on the map. If it's all different trajectories or angles or whatever, I don't know if that's a good thing for a competitive FPS, because if there's so many inconsistencies on those walls, then from one angle it means you need to know more detail of how each square fucking pixel is going to operate with a grenade trajectory. But at one point, I imagine that becomes too complex and too much. Like, it should be, hey, if I bank a nade off of the wall at this angle, it should be bouncing here. Like, this is the type of interaction I should be looking for. Like, there's probably a fine line between where that gets drawn, because I think there's some cool interactions. Like, one of them is on Inferno, when you're smoking CT, the wall near CT, the way you normally smoke off, it's slightly slanted. So if you bounce a smoke off of it at the right trajectory, it'll bounce and it will land on the boost ledge. And before, that was cool because the smoke would completely plume and it would cover off the boost so people couldn't stand on there. It will still land on there now and create a little bit of cover. But yeah, that's one where it can be used in a positive way to throw a set nade. And wouldn't be possible. Well, I guess that's a larger angle. So yeah, it's just defining where that line is between, like, where should this kind of just be a flat clipping that should be naded off of and should just operate as we would expect, or where should this actually be more angled or, you know, give a different response? Because that'll be important in a lot of moments in Counter-Strike.
I do have.
Yeah, I'd wonder if that was like some like misplaced pixel or weird interaction of the map versus, or is it like actually like a piece of decoration on the wall? You know, like
I think it's just clipping of the map. Like, I was talking to Rush briefly about it, but at the same time, like, I don't understand these things enough.
Yeah, I think also, before I forget, when we did say like the game feels amazing for me on my PC, it's like, you know, playing with. It has a little bit, it reminisces me of when CSGO came out. You know, in Serbia, a lot of people had the problem of just the PC isn't good enough to run the game on a good level, you know, where you can have a good experience. Like, sure, you can play and compete like people love CS, but you have to work through the issues sort of and the lack of performance. So I know that there's probably the majority of people, or I don't know if majority, but there's definitely a lot of people who are struggling to enjoy the game because, you know, their rig isn't
good enough.
Yeah, isn't good enough. So I think that's, like, obviously not a great thing, and hopefully they can find ways to optimize the game a little bit more and a little bit better. And I still, like, for example, this is so weird because I hear like different experiences from different people, and you're probably a good person to talk about this, Chad, but I haven't run into a single cheater yet in Premiere. And I played like, I don't know, 15 games.
Yeah, I think this is one of the curious. So with the vac wave that they did recently, I think it was over the last 2 days. Rops made some tweets about cheaters.
Yeah. Pretty big one as well, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be banned, but this is something that I've played a lot of matchmaking over the years, and throughout the times you would find like cheaters in things like Vertigo Wingman. Like that would be a semi-frequent occurrence. I wouldn't say it's, you know, every day or anything like that, but, you know, it'd be like, oh, okay, well, I did not expect this. Same with, like, sometimes you're playing a shorty or something. There would be people who would definitely, and they would do it blatantly, like they're not doing it in like a sly way. But I'm wondering if in CS2 at the moment, if people are trying to be more sly with it, you know, and not just do like blatant spin botting. But I think in some of the examples I saw, that was exactly what they were doing. They were just spin botting with a scout, just headshotting everybody. So just essentially rage cheating. But I don't think I've had any run-ins either, and I'll say that because in all the games I've played, I've only lost one, and the only one I lost was to fucking Zywoo, Apex, Shox, RPK, and some other French guy that was queuing with them. So I don't think I got cheated in that game by any means. So for me, I haven't had any run-ins with that, but I do know it's very possible. And that's the issue, I think, is the fear that it is thought of to be more possible than over at Face It, where it probably still is possible. I think it, well, not probably, I imagine it would definitely be possible for somebody to have some form of a cheat running. But at Face It, you just feel safer because you have a more intrusive anti-cheat. You're on this service that a lot of people pay for, that are verified upon, everything like that. Whereas into the Valve version, it's just like a free game into the fucking wild, wild west, where sure there's Prime and there's all these other features or whatnot, but you just feel that anything could happen. There's no protection out there. You haven't saddled up for the day. You haven't you've gone into battle without your Kevlar. So I don't know. I haven't experienced any cheaters myself, but I know other people have. Rush was saying like him, Justin, Nico, they were queuing together and they came up against some cheaters the other day. And this was probably around the same time as Rops was making his tweet about the cheaters. But that is going to be one of the bigger factors that determines how the game is played. Because if you're a new player and you're getting cheated against in that, you're not going to return, I wouldn't imagine. Like that kind of makes things pretty unfun quite quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not plagued with the cheater problem as much as it seems like other people are. I think I ran into like one person during my 3 weeks in Malta that was like suspicious enough to feel like he was cheating, but I wasn't even able to confirm it. It was like the day the demos stopped working, or they turned the replay
because of the server load or something, right?
Yeah, so like I wanted to go back and watch it and see his POV, but I couldn't get to it. But that was like the only time I was in a game where I was like, this guy's probably fucking cheating. But yeah,
that was when you played me, right?
Were you in that game? Oh no, yeah, you're making a joke. That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason,
wrecked.
Let's get into the fucking nitty gritty, guys. Jason,
what's up, baby?
What's your experience with Team Liquid as an org?
It's awesome. I think it's probably, I would assume from my experience and from the experience of others that I've spoken to that have been there, it's probably the #1 org that you could want to work for in esports. Like they're insane with their facilities are incredible.
Yeah, okay, this is not the Team Liquid ad. That's what I expected to hear. Chad.
Yeah.
What's your experience with HLTV?
They pay me on. They pay me on time, and they're pretty easy to work with. They're stand-up guys,
right?
Yeah.
You see, and these two are the exact motherfuckers that try to sell us on Rainwaker being a good thing for Team Liquid. They brought out HLTV, brought out the stats, Chad. We all remember the articles. We all remember the graphs. Oh, Nav and Rainwaker are two of the most passive players, and Kinder and Patsy are two of the most aggressive players. And, you know, this is like amazing, actually. Low key, they found a diamond in the rough. Well, guess what? They just didn't have enough money to bring anyone good. And now he's benched, and Daps is back. And you know what that means? Stanislaw is not far behind either.
It's definitely possible.
Right around the corner.
This is actually, you know, it's quite funny, Janko. Today, Liquid is playing Forsaken in this Blast Premier Full Showdown, and on the stands on the other side of the server. So,
really?
Yeah, Daps vs Stan going down today at 8 p.m. So the people definitely need to be tuning into that one. That's going to be a barn burner of a match. But I think the Rainwaker one was always a pickup that felt, and I was talking about this on HLTV just the night ago, but I used the term disposable, right? Like he wasn't someone who felt like, hey, they've taken a risk on this guy. Don't know how much money they spent on him, probably not a lot. And if it doesn't work out, they can quite quickly trade him out for somebody else, which is at the moment the coach. And I'll be interested to see how Daps does, because I think considering if he just plays some of these classic CT anchor positions, he could probably hold his own in North American Counter-Strike without too many issues. So I see Daps having fun in this little qualifier they're about to play. But the future of this team that's where I turn to, because the fact that they aren't even waiting to see how CS2 plays, they obviously don't like playing with Rainwaker. Either that's because of the playstyle or something else. I'm not even trying to stir shit. I'm just saying like there has to be a reason that they either, like you're saying, Janko, they don't think he's good enough. Or some other reason, right? And they're looking for a change. But with that change, do you now bring in someone else to in-game lead? Does Yakinda return to that, and you bring in? I think it would make more sense to have someone come in and be an in-game leader for the team. But I don't know who would make a good fit immediately. I don't even know where you would want to be turning immediately.
I think the same way, because I had no problems with I don't think Rainwaker was like a problem in terms of like he was some massive liability every single game. Obviously wasn't quite up to tier 1 level at the quite yet. But I have the same kind of thought process. It was a cheap experiment. It was something to see if they could build him into something. I had some faith in Daps' scouting. It obviously didn't work the way they wanted it to. I hope this Daps into the team nothing has been said that would make it seem so, but I could see a universe. I hope this DAPS to in-game lead the team isn't a permanent thing that they're considering for long term.
It should be. Come on, DAPS. Come on, Dapsy boy.
Yeah,
Drop 30.
Just because you want him to live out your little dream of getting back into the game and in-game leading.
You can do it, Daps.
I think it'd be a horrible, horrible idea to try and even flirt with the idea of going down that road. So I'm hoping this is just a stand-in situation and they bring in someone, whether it's permanent, whether it's trial, whatever it might be after this event. I'm assuming in my brain that this is like a roster lock situation where they'd already supplied the rosters and can't make any additions. But I think, first priority has got to be, in my mind, and this was even before they brought Rainwaker in, like, Ykinder should not be in-game leading this team. Yeah, and definitely. I know he has the potential. I know he thinks about the game in a smart way, but I don't think you can put him in.
Bro, I don't even know if that's true. Fuck that. Fuck all the narratives anymore.
But I don't think that's just a narrative. If you talk to his teammates, I talked to Dastan at Pro League, and he said the same thing. He was like, Ykinder could be a good in-game leader. He thinks about the game on a good level. He has good knowledge of the team Counter-Strike. Like he was giving him praises as a potential in-game leader. And I mean, you can have all those praises from the outside. It doesn't always work the same when you actually have the responsibility.
Exactly right. I'm not saying he doesn't know the game or anything like that, but it's like, there's been a lot of portrayal like, oh yeah, he's the second coming of fucking, you're supposed to say Jesus, but I was trying to come up with a good in-game leader and I didn't know who to
I thought you were going to say James, which I guess amounts to the same thing.
Exactly, right? Like, yeah, that would be a good one, Jason. Thank you. Second coming of James. It could mean a lot of things in James's context, but yeah. And then, in reality, it's like kind of, well, maybe not, because something that I'm sure you've experienced as well when you were coaching Liquid is like the game feels so much more different when you're in it, like on the server, as like all the information that feels like so obvious to you when you're casting, like when you're in the server actually and playing it, it's not that easy, right? Especially when you take all the little details into account. So the fact that someone has like a good mind about the game doesn't always translate them into being a good leader. And also, here's the thing that kind of bothers me about this whole like Liquid thing. It's like, first of all, like I was kind of doing a bit. I don't really like for them to try out Rainwaker and it doesn't work out, and now they cut him and they get someone else. Like that's okay, especially with CS2 being around the corner. It's like low risk. Oh well, not really low risk, but it could be high reward. And if not, like it's not a massive deal. But for me, I feel like Liquid, just like G2 for example, and some of these orgs like you're a huge org, like just in general in esports, right? You can't be signing guys like Rainwaker, right? You need to make like bigger splash. Like even, for example, the Shocks thing was horrible. It was like a horrible signing, but at least it was a big name in a way. And it got everyone excited, oh, this could work. Like it's not about getting someone who's like a blue chip player or proven and tested, but if you're going to get a talent, get someone who's actually already like on the radar, like, and could be sick.
Who would be a good example of that at the moment, you reckon?
What?
Which kind of player would you think? Like, not even one that has to fit. I'm just thinking like a player in general.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to, like if you were trying to take someone from Mouse, Like, that's what I was thinking. You're trying to take someone
who's like young and still maybe a little bit unproven, but you can kind of tell this guy is gonna be good, Sure. And obviously he doesn't fit role wise, but
no, but an example of a type of just where a player is at in their career or what they've proven.
Came out of really nowhere. Like it wasn't like he was destroying the tier 2 scene, right? Like players were before, some that joined other teams,
I don't mind the risk that they took though, just because it is like a weird moment in Counter-Strike where they have this kind of runway up to the first CS2 major to where you can see if this is going to work. Like
it's no harm, no foul in my book.
Yeah, there was like a period where it was like let's try this. Let's see if we find a diamond in the rough. Let's see if we find like a really cheap player who turns into like either a really serviceable role player.
Yeah, but you see that's where I like just feel, and I'm probably wrong about this. Like I'm aware of that, but it's like. That's not Liquid that needs to do like it's like FaZe, right? Like 5 years ago or 3 years ago, like FaZe and Mouse. Mouse is a team that has to find like players and develop them and find new talent. And FaZe is a team that just buys them from Mouse when they're like, when they reach maturity at some point. Like for me, that's Team Liquid. You don't come to Team Liquid to develop like completely. You know, sure, you get a player that's like OC. He wasn't a fucking bot, but you know, he still like needs some experience and needs to get better. And I feel like he's done that. Just on that sort of a level, like you don't
yeah, but weird
for
spot
players
for Liquid,
if you're
though?
Team Liquid. You go out and get proven players.
Just by going by your example, though, FaZe picked up Croman.
They didn't.
But temporarily, it was only a stand-in. Like Brokey would probably be the better of the
Brokey,
example,
right?
though,
But
right?
at that point, it was like because of the cold transfer and everything, we were short on cash. I mean, we were as if it was my money, but that was sort of the sentiment. Is like, and it wasn't even really that FaZe came and say, "Well, we can't get I don't know who." It's like I really pushed for a young player and someone who's hungry on the team and like new blood, because at the time people were still doing the thing a little bit. They were recycling old names, just for the sake
like
of
Shocks.
it. Yeah, but I really wanted someone, and they told me about Brokey. We looked at it and like played a little bit and was like, okay, I think this can work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like Liquid has, I think there's a couple things that I would spin it in a different direction from an organizational perspective. It's one, Liquid has never been able to, and we're seeing how important it is to be able to develop young, inexperienced talent into solid players. That's going to be a huge thing for organizations into the future of Counter-Strike, that you're able to have a system and staff in place that can bring up players and make them better than they were when they got there. That's what they try to do with Rainwaker. That's what they try to do with Grim. It hasn't worked. That part of the organization certainly needs some work, in that part of the structure. I think the other thing too is, as much as there's this, not joke isn't the right way, but this whole conversation around like the esports winter where things are taking a little bit of a downturn here and there, and orgs are kind of, struggling to find that revenue that they need to be able to show. You can't always go out and sign the big players that are going to have the inflated buyouts and the inflated salaries. And especially, I would say there's more risk in going that route than there is in picking up a player like Rainwaker and seeing if he turns into something.
Well, I think with the period of time we're in, I'll agree with that. And I think also another thing, and this is, Jason, I never usually do this, but I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Mm-hmm. This is a North American team who's now a European team. Yeah. So before they were always had the bedrock of having a core of North Americans. Well, now that's completely shifted. That's no longer the case anymore. There was the push from like, well, if you want to compete, stop using this North American excuse. So they went, yeah, all right, well, fuck it, let's become European. And now they're European. Well, I don't know. I imagine that Liquid is a pretty enticing prospect for a lot of players out there, but I also don't know how much money they're willing just to spend. Like, I don't think buying somebody out of mouths now will be as easy as it was 5 years ago. Well, that too. That too. But I think like even where the org or that team is at, for example, like, I think that I agree with YNko's sentiment that like Rainwaker may be too far off of the radar. Like they're trying to be too hipster. Yeah. They're trying to be Maui ordering ramen, right? Like they don't just want to order like on the menu. They're trying to get in there and tell the guy how to fucking do it.
Fucking love
like
Chad.
It's
That's exactly
it's one
what,
of yeah.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
But I think that they're in a position where now they can do what Yanko's saying. They don't have to just pull the trigger on anybody.
Do you do that with looming CS2? Like, don't you stay patient and say, let's see how the first 2 months, the end of the year,
but that means you stay with Daps, right?
Or find a Croman that you can bring in as a quote unquote stand-in and see how that works for 2 months.
Or they bring
then it fucks everything
on top.
Well,
that could happen.
Here's my biggest frustration with the Team Liquid thing is I want to be like with Rainwaker now leaving and departing. It's like once again they have a decision to make. Do you want to stay on this European swap up and stay with a European core, or do you want to go back and now you have the opportunity to say we could actually be competing in the Americas RMRs and we could be competing in the Americas qualifiers for the major, and then all of a sudden you're kind of, in the American region nothing's guaranteed, but it's about as close to a guarantee as you get that you can actually come through.
Or
it
should
Americas
be for Team
RMR.
Liquid. Yes, if for Team Liquid, that should be the case, right? Like that team, if it isn't, like if they don't have the best 3 North American pieces available, or even now you could have the 3 best American pieces available, right? Like you don't even hold up a second. What if we get Cacerado out of Furia? No. That's already not. Sorry, guys.
That'd be nice.
No, they're just about to figure it out, Chad.
Yeah. You think we're close?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're close? How close are we, Janko?
What do you think Cacerado's buyout is? It's got to be fucking massive over on Furia.
I don't think it's like a set number even.
Yeah, It's probably not even actually laid out in the contract. It's probably just at the whim of whoever's negotiating.
How mental is everything about to go, though? Let's keep that in mind, because this cadian thing that Janko's just brought up, that's huge. I think that caught everybody off guard. I don't think we thought that the heart and soul of the team was going to be the one getting replaced, but fair enough, that's what's happened. Then there's also the rumors about Australis potentially making some changes. Now we've seen Zonic and Lars go over towards Falcons, so there's obviously going to be changes with Falcons, which there have been rumors that could even be linked back to players like Magisk and Dupree. And then at that point, well, fuck, let's just crack it all open, because almost every fucking team is international now. Like, how insane could this go?
It could get pretty spicy. Although I don't know if do you want to take those like one at a time and then do the big picture after the fact?
Well, that's all big picture though, isn't it? Like,
yeah, in this sense,
as much as they all have their own like ramifications, like the heroic one, we could talk about what that means for heroic. Sure, like we could talk about what that means for vitality, but like right now, we did slip into big picture. But all of this has potential impact on everything else. Kind of like the Cloud9 roster changes felt like they were going to have a bit more of like a cascade of effect on the Russian / Far Eastern European side of things. That didn't really manifest just yet, unless this Boomich thing comes true. Anyway, I feel like I'm spinning a wheel. Should we pick one?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell, right? Because like if Liquid, let's just say for instance, if Liquid see cadian on the market now and they're like, that's who we need. We need a captain, a heart and soul, an in-game leader, and someone who can get this team headed in the right direction. Like, if they bring him in, like that feels like there's got to be at least one more roster change, right? Like that's not the team that you're gonna think long term. Like, I feel like you'd want to change at least an OC.
Would that be even where you go though? If
OC's not bad. I
don't think he's bad either. But if you bring in an op in-game leader and then you have an opper, like I don't know, but I don't put stock in cadian as an in-game leader purely rifling. Although I don't think he'd be bad.
Right. I think a lot of people would have hoped that he would have just rifled and had like device fucking come to heroic and all, right? Like it's not. I agree with you. I don't think cadian is bad on the AWP. I think him as an in-game leader and an AWPer finds a lot of impact. But I think that is
serviceable.
Yeah, and I think though. But if that's a big part of how this is the thing. I don't know how he would in-game lead just rifling, because you can't be as mobile across the map as you could be as an AWPer. As an AWPer, he literally gets to be everywhere to set his teammates up. He can go, okay, I'm coming over with flash, or you set me up with the one-way smoke, and then I'm going to move around here. He gets to see the whole game. That's one of the keys of being like an AWP in-game leader, unless you play like Jame. Well, actually, that's not true. Jame is like the goalkeeper in football. He's standing in the goal watching every other piece, so he knows where he needs to be.
He's so far away from action that he does get to just keep his attention on the radar.
Sometimes it feels like he's the ref.
Yeah. That's true. He's calling when the ball's out of bounds.
I mean that's an interesting, because I haven't really considered cadian coming and just rifling. I don't know. That'd be really really interesting, because like I always come back, like when I think about that, I go back to like Janko, what you told me when I picked up Fallen for Liquid was like Fallen as an in-game leader is better as an in-game leader when he's opping.
Yeah.
Like he is just one of those guys who like it's just so ingrained into him now that he's just way more effective and better calling when he has the op, and that's his comfort zone, and he has to be in his comfort zone to kind of facilitate that. So I would wonder if cadian could make it work on a different weapon.
I think he could make it work, but would it be as good? I guess that's it.
Yeah.
And also, in Fallen's case, he will be the best opper as well when he's the in-game leader too. It's kind of
that's another thing to keep in mind.
I think players are in a sort of in for like a rude awakening, in a sense, like what you guys talked about, and whatever, people renegotiating stuff and not getting the money they wanted. Like, there's not 10 Falcons teams out there, as a team that would actually pay you more money, more than market value to come to that lineup or that org, right? Like, the golden days are, in that sense, for the players behind us, where orgs would race who will have the better roster, and they didn't care about how much the player wanted in terms of salary, and they would just pay whatever he wanted for them to come to their team, right? Like, now, you can see, even for someone like, you're talking about fucking Zonic, dude. Like, the greatest coach we had in CSGO. The guy won 5 majors, right? He did what he came to Vitality for. He got it done, no, whatever the circumstances and whatnot. And still, I don't know, obviously, what he asked for and how the renegotiation went. Like, he wasn't happy. I don't know if maybe he was unreasonable and asked for I don't know what. He doesn't seem like an unreasonable guy to me at all, right? But the fact that also Vitality isn't an org that's like scared to spend money, right? Like to get players. And sure, they're also looking out, thinking about the future. Flamesy, because he was free, I guess. That's why they got him. That was one of the benefits of getting him when they did, just after they won the major, and they decided to bench Dupree, right? But so it feels weird that they couldn't get it done.
This Vitality one is a different. This Vitality one is just kind of crazy to me. Like, how do you have a coach that you brought in for to get the team to the level you wanted it to be at from the start? He does that and then leaves. And yeah, I guess you're exactly right. We won't know the details, but it's only if Zonic is like asking for something ludicrous.
And people are, obviously saying like, oh, it's all about the money, and I'm sure the money is a massive factor in all of it, right? No matter how much they try to downplay it, it just is. Especially for Zonic, like the guy has a family, he has a couple of kids, and I don't want to sound like has more than one, but I feel like less than 5, so somewhere in between.
Sure, he has somewhere from 2 to 5.
Right,
children.
And I know, people who don't know about it, it's like they definitely you want to provide for your family and all of that stuff, but even with all of that, I do feel like, it is a challenge. I feel like we've all been there in our careers where we sort of have, seeked out a challenge and to do something different, right? And for him, like, first it was, okay, do it with an international team, right? Don't make it just Astralis. And he's done it. And then I feel like if Falcons weren't there, like if that org didn't exist and that sort of an offer didn't exist, there was a good chance he would just keep going with Vitality. But because it exists, and even if he fails at the challenge of taking them to or whatever the goal is, winning the major in the next 3 years, I think was what they said. Even though that's feasible, like even if it doesn't pan out that way, like he'll get a fucking shit ton of money for it at the very least. And then it's like, well, still worth.
Well, I think here's the way that I've built the story in my head, because obviously we don't have all the details of what happened, but this is what I think happened. That
acted out.
As far as I've heard rumors that one of the reasons Flamesy's in and Dupree's out is because Dupree would have been getting paid a lot of money, right? When Dupree, Magisk, and Zonic all would have come over to Vitality, they're coming over as part of the greatest Counter-Strike roster of all time. So I imagine their contracts that they signed initially would have been very good. Probably the same with Lars as well. Mm-hmm. So let's say the 4 of them. And then, Jason, you mentioned it before, but this esports winter, we've seen it from our side. It's existing, and it's going to affect other titles a lot more than it is Counter-Strike. We're going to be fine. Maybe some people are just going to get paid less for a while, or maybe a few cuts here, there, and everywhere. It is going to suck for some people, right? But hey, this is at this point, this cycle. The last time this happened was 2008. There was a recession. I was a professional Counter-Strike player for Sydney Underground. I woke up one day, the website was changed, and I was no longer a professional Counter-Strike player anymore. So this is again the boomerism in me, but I've been there, I've seen this. But yeah, so imagine they're trying to save a bit of money, right? So they're saying to Zonic, hey coach, who we brought across, greatest coach of all time. Oh, by the way, and we brought you over to win the major. Oh, and you won the major. We're a French team. Oh, and you won the one in Paris. Cool. Hey, we're going to pay you less than we were paying you before, even though you achieved everything that you were meant to achieve when joining this team. And then if I'm Zonic, I go, well, fuck, that kind of sucks. But I'm also right now at the peak of my powers, So right now I'm sitting there, I'm Zonic, I'm going, man, I'm still I'm the fucking best. We just won another major. Add that one to the tally. And now the team that I did this for, they can't pay me the same amount they were paying me before. And like you said, Zonic's probably pretty reasonable. I imagine he would have gone, can we just pay the same? And then let's say it can't happen. Well, now all it's going to take is someone to go, hello, hi, Do you want double the amount you were earning before? That's pure speculation. I have no idea how much money he was earning before or how much money he's earning now. But the rumor is apparently he's earning as much as some of the absolute best professional Counter-Strike players in the world right now, like the ZywOo Simple kind of level, which is, I don't actually know the figure. Someone tweeted at me today saying that apparently Simple earns this, and this is the thing. This is a guy that likes to troll me a bit on Twitter. So he could be
Fuck
just...
that guy.
No. This guy's kind of funny.
Love that.
Is quite flippant and quite sarcastic. So their type of banter is not too bad. This guy's Silver Balls 42. So it's actually pretty funny. I used to be a bit more upset at Silver Balls 42, but I kind of just think everything they say now has got a bit of humor to it, which is why when I mention this number, it could also just mean nothing. But he said Simple's on 65K a month, by the way. So if Zonic's up to like, we're talking like that level of cash, let's say 50,000 euros or whatever a month, around that. We're talking over $500,000 a year of salary. So let's say Zonic got an offer of something insane like that. He's at the peak of his powers. He's considered the best coach of all time. The best coach currently, just won the last major. And then his orgs come to him and said, hey, do you want this money? And we're going, yeah, okay, yeah, sounds good. With all the other factors Janko laid out, the fact he has a family, he's got a wife, he's got kids. And this also isn't forever. He won't be the best coach forever. These type of offers won't be available forever. This is, the famine mentality of esports, which has literally existed the entire time of esports. I still have it sometimes. Some days I wake up and go, fuck, this might not be here tomorrow, or I could lose my job, or this might not be the case, and it could all be gone. Like, it's quite a fragile fucking thing that we have, that we get to thrive in. I don't know why. I actually don't know why it's still functioning, but it is. It's still going. And Zonic's seen the worst of esports in terms of when there was no money and he was just playing as someone. And now, he's in what I guess was considered the best as far as financially speaking. Like the sticker money that they'd be making right now for that shit that's on sale for Paris still, it would be astronomical. It'd be money that I couldn't even possibly fathom, like that they're getting from fucking stickers. So yeah, when I frame it that way, I go, yeah, okay, I can see why Zonic took it. I get it. But I'm more interested in what type of team he builds.
We're so focused on the money side of things, and I mean, I think it'd be silly to just take everything that someone gives in a public interview and everything like that. But the whole conversation from Lars and Zonic is a lot of. I mean, the money is obviously going to be there, and the money is obviously a big point to start with. But also the control that they get.
Jason, I like both those guys a lot. I like both of them a lot. I think they're both good guys. None of that is worth a grain of salt to me. It might be partially true, right? But like when I read something in that interview, it's like, not 100% motivated by the money, like, or not purely motivated by the money.
No, but
right?
like the money's got to be there at a base point as a basic foundational like motivating factor.
There's probably 95%. And here's the thing, to go to a challenge, mate. Your team right now is young as fuck. You've got Spinks, Flamesy, ZywOo, and Magisk, all of which are like 24 or younger. Like, you have a team in the that could be, and currently considered one of the best Counter-Strike, if not the best Counter-Strike team in the world right now, right? This team is in the prime. It is fucking primed and ready and raring to go. Like, for straight into CS2. You have the best Counter-Strike player in the world currently. Like, we're talking about a challenge. You want to go over and start something from scratch or whatever. Fine. Okay, cool. Like,
yeah,
that's
but
great.
I think that's where it gets into the point where we already saw him take that challenge. He already came over and had that challenge, and when he accomplished that challenge and overcame it and accomplished the goal, the organization said no to whatever he asked for, like the raise.
Yeah, but he's a little bit more control. He could go anywhere, Jason. Right? So he could go to any team he wanted, like within reason. But if, let's say, he went to G2,
that's fair.
He knocked on G2's door, said, "Hey, you guys don't win consistently. Do you want to win consistently? Hi, I'm Zonic." It's still a challenge. Making G2 win consistently, something that's never happened. It's obviously the money is the main motivating factor. And again, like, I'm not begrudging him for making that decision. I went through the thought process of what I think probably happened to him to get to that point, right? I just think that all these other things, you're now essentially, you're going to go in there with a bulldozer and you're going to flatten the whole team. Who are you going to keep from the current Falcons roster? Maybe Burros?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be it. And then you're going to build a brand new team. And that's what I'm excited about. That's where the conversation for me actually, gets some legs to it. But I don't care about a new challenge, because I don't. It probably is personally a new challenge for him to have to build a new team. Yeah, that is a new challenge. But I don't think that is the key talking point or motivating factor of all of this. Like, okay, he took the money to go to this team. Now, what the fuck can you build? How much have they given you? How much influence do you have? How much pull does the name of Zonic have to bring some of the biggest names to Falcons? Because they obviously want to be the best Counter-Strike team in the world. You wouldn't make this move otherwise. And that's where I sit back and go, all right, fuck yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to find at least 1 to 2 pretty big name signings to get people attracted to that team at the end of the day.
Isn't Zonic meant to be that, though?
I think he's a good starting point, but I don't think, yeah, if we go back to the money thing, that could certainly do it. But I mean, I think still like, well, I guess it depends. Because Flames turned down.
This team is going to be a team like that is going to compete for championships. We just want to make like, it's like basically what FaZe did 5 years ago. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
But it can be more aggressive than that, I imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go that route, though. I don't think they're just going to buy up a bunch of like big name players. I think it's going to be a process. I think they'll get 1 or 2 and try and attack 1 or 2 more players to it as they start to improve.
And then I kind of don't care. Like, go. Like,
you
if
actually
we're doing
think
this,
you
let's
actually
go fucking
think
nuts.
Okay, so you actually think they're going to come in and just literally buy like 3 or 4 players out of the gate and just make a team?
I would hope that they would buy at least a couple. Like,
see, I don't think they're going to do that at all. I think it's the other way.
So here's a prime roster ready for the picking is ENCE. It's players who we know are reasonably paid as per market like value as of right now, right? We know that ENCE have built a team not on the cheap, but on the what is fair, right? A team that, you know, doesn't have the most household player names in it by any stretch of the imagination, but now with this team is considered one of the best Counter-Strike rosters in the world and has some really, really strong pieces, right? Like Sampaius on his day, Nerds on his day, absolute fucking animals. Madden and Deha also very good role players and you get a lot of impact out of them, and Snappy's in-game leading getting a lot more light as a late.
Bro, Deha is not a fucking role player, or at least he's not supposed to be. But never mind, that's a different conversation. Finish your point.
Well, and I think he's a very good player. I think I just kind of see him. He doesn't get all the soup. Oh, okay, all right, we'll get into that later. But if I was somebody like Falcons and I'm going to pay double or triple what they're currently earning in ENCE, well then those are the type of players, you know, that you could be getting and peeling across. You're not necessarily saying like Vitality. Zywoo is a franchise player. Simple over at Na'Vi, a franchise player. I would imagine that those guys aren't going fucking anywhere from those organizations.
Yeah.
But like Nico from G2, well, you know, I don't know. Like
another thing we don't know is the length of players' contracts, which plays a huge, which is a huge factor in people getting bought out or not, and all that stuff. You know, like if you approach a player who's in the last. And orgs are getting smarter about this with their star players, right? Like renewing contracts and stuff. But look at like, there already was like a news on Dexerto or somewhere about Zywoo, right? And his like he has like what, a year left, you know. And it's like, who knows? Let's say he has an amazing relationship with Zonic and he doesn't really care about Vitality all that much. Like he's a guy who doesn't really like care who he plays for. He just wants to play CS, blah, 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 blah. And Zonic tells him, hey, we're making like a sick thing here. He loved like playing for him or the vibe that him and Lars created in the team. And he would be like, yeah, I mean, if you can make it happen, I'll come and play for that org. Just hypothetically, right?
Sure.
And sure, it would be like worst case, if he really wanted to do it, he could wait out the contract and not resign, and then he's a free agent, right? And Vitality would be aware of that, and at that point, it's like, well, obviously we don't want to sell Zywoo, but we'd rather sell him than let him go for nothing.
Yeah,
you know. So sometimes that comes into play as well, right? Like it becomes more doable because there's not too much left on his contract. But let's say, I don't know. I think, for example, there's no way they could get a guy like Blame because Blame just re-signed the contract, so. Even if he wants to, like, you know, like it's...
There's things within reason, right?
Yeah,
Some
exactly,
stuff is just,
right?
like, too crazy with the parameters that would exist just based off of the business. Yeah.
I think the hard thing, too, is, like, now if you're Falcons and you come to, like, buy out players to make a team, if you're the org selling the player, don't you say this Falcons team has a lot of money behind it? Like, let's bump up these numbers.
But not all of them have, like, buyouts that are adjustable like that, right? Like, I think... Like,
I would say most of them do.
Do they really? Because that fucking
so
sucks.
well.
That is fucking
I would say the large
insane,
majority
man.
of them have buyout clauses that are undefined that get to be defined at the moment of negotiation.
I can't quite believe that. How is anyone signing that?
Because they do it to get a high salary, let's say.
Yeah, they pump the salary numbers up, so they have that little clause in there.
Yeah, well then I have no sympathy. If
And
you're in
I don't know.
fucking
I would
bench
hope
jail.
I think we're starting to see. I mean, I have my own opinion on agents, but I would hope that as players start getting agents, as we've seen agents, more involved in player negotiations for teams, that would be one of the main priorities to get those clauses defined or taken out. That it can just be like a whim, a spur of the moment number that they throw out. But I think that's the big issue. Is despite the fact that we know Falcons have obviously the Saudi backing and a lot of money, it doesn't mean they have like an untapped, like a well they can just reach into whenever they want that cash.
Yeah, but you're going to spend money on these players anyway, right? They're obviously going to be paying, but then they're going to be paying decent money. So I just think it's about kind of weighing up what Janko's saying. Players who are coming towards the end of their contract that might be a reasonable player to buy out and have, and then kind of a mix of players that. Well, that's the thing. There's even players that you can get that you can pay reasonable money for that's still not insane. Like the Ents guys I was talking about. Or, I don't know. I was thinking about some of the FaZe guys. We hear a lot of rumors around FaZe, not like the team, not the 5 players, but the instability of like the org. And are they getting sold here? Are they going there? I wonder if any of those players with the uncertainty of FaZe, if it would play into them to, go elsewhere. Like a Twist or a Rops, for example. Like, or why not even both? Like, they're just...
What if you bring a Twist and a Kerrigan back to Liquid?
Well, if you bring Rops and Kerrigan and get frozen, go to Falcons.
Sure. I don't think you're going to be getting frozen out of Mouse, though, anytime soon.
Of course.
I wonder what their buyouts are over there with Mouse. That'd be interesting. And I wonder when like Frozen had re-signed for as well. Like Henry did try to get all these figures and all this kind of stuff public for us, but
he was on the right track.
Yeah,
we appreciated that attempt.
He did try, and we may never get there. Henry died for nothing, really, didn't he?
Okay, well, how's this? Because this is possibly the most intense one we have in terms of roster changes, but Heroic letting cadian go.
What do you mean letting? You think letting?
Well, whatever way you want to phrase it. Let's just say...
When he says let go, I think he means like benching him, not like letting him leave.
Okay, let me rephrase. cadian is no longer part of Heroic.
There we go. I'm with you now.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was shocking.
Well, that's not true.
Shut the fuck. I hate both of you. I fucking hate both of you.
No, but I mean, I understand, but it was better how you said it the first time around, right? Because it is sort of, it's because they didn't have the same views on the future of the team. Now, that means probably 2 things. First of all, it's either just complete bullshit and something to say because cadian already knows where he's going and he just wants to leave because he's sick and tired of fucking... the players on his team being little bitches.
Sick and tired.
And like choking in big games and like not being able, he probably feels like they should have had obviously at least 1 major with the Rio major and a couple of other titles probably as well. And just the way you lose some of these games, it does make you sick. Like the as an in-game leader and for him being the captain that he is and whatnot, for your star players to just disappear in big games. It's like there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, there's very little you can do about it, right? Like obviously you're trying to help them get over the hump and maybe you even call a little bit differently to get in, whatever. But you can't make someone not be a choker, right? Like that's something they need to work on themselves and figure it out. And some people never do. And that's fine. Like then they're not really cut out for that, the biggest of stages and being on that sort of a roster, right? So it's either that, or the second view is like, let's say, I don't know, he wanted some massive changes in the team, right? Like, let's say, I don't know, maybe even changing like whatever, 3 players, let's say, just for the sake of discussion. And then the org was like, well, we can't really do that, and either we don't have the funds or whatnot. And then again, it was like, well, if I can't get what I want in that sense, this is what I believe needs to change for me to stay on this org, and you don't want to do it, like, and then I don't want to be a part of it.
I'm trying to imagine. No, I'm trying to like think in my head of like, cause like I feel like my perspective on this would change if I knew if it was cadian saying I want to make these changes and the org saying no, or if it was like a team or org decision to say we've hit the end of the road with cadian.
No, I don't think. I think there's zero. Well, I don't want to go full Moses, but I think there's like 1% chance that it was like everyone else not wanting to play with cadian and like sort of pointing the finger at him and saying this guy's the problem, right? Like I just don't see that happening, because also he's more than just, he's like the heart and soul of that team. You can see that the way he like everything starts and ends with him in a way.
But maybe that's the problem, Janko. Like I don't want that to be the case. And when I say maybe that's the problem, maybe that's what the team, like the other players started to, you know, it grew old for them, or they started to become like
bro, in a different lineup, I could like I understand what you're saying and it makes sense. And in a different lineup, I could agree with that. But with these guys, no fucking way. I think that they'd be ass. I think they'll be ass without them in a way.
Oh, I think this is a disastrous loss for Heroic. I don't see this team recovering nearly to the heights they were at before with him being gone. Like he was everything in that team.
But yeah,
like you now no longer have an opera, you now no longer have an in-game leader, and you no longer have like the leadership figure on a team that seems like none of the players over the last like 2 years of cadian being there, 3 years of cadian being there, have actually broken out of their shell enough to take that mantle. Like I don't know who you turn to within that roster.
This is why I think maybe there's more changes. This is why it feels like maybe there are going to be more changes than just cadian going out here, right? Because removing cadian, you now have two problems in that team. You now need an in-game leader, and if someone else in that team is willing to pick it up, then you better put your hand out right fucking now, because we've been watching you guys non-stop, and none of you have even looked like the caliber's been there.
Yeah.
And then second of all, now you have to bring an AWPer in.
Yeah, so, but doesn't that seem like this is what's so weird to me about it? Doesn't that seem fucking insane? Like if cadian comes and says, I want to make a change, this isn't right, I want to bring a new player in, I want to bring in a new style, I want to have this philosophy, we need this guy to do it, and you say, no, we're not making any changes that you want, and then you let cadian go and be like, okay, right, now that we've let him go, let's make some of those changes.
But that's the thing. The core of the team, in terms of maybe the philosophy, it just would have been cadian's philosophy updating, right? That would have been the change. He would have likely still been the AWP player and still been the in-game leader. So he was still the guy going to be defining and being the heart and soul of the team. So by him being gone now, it's going to be an entirely new thing, like way they approach the game, everything, because you're going to have to bring in someone completely new who's going to have their own version of how they want to use these pieces. So the only way that I can see this of going is if the type of changes that cadian, like I think this is essentially Janko's sentiment, is if the type of changes cadian wanted to make were said no to, or not made to be possible. Yeah, we can't do this, we can't buy this player, we can't make this happen. Then yeah, maybe it is him trying to make way for himself.
And I agree with you, Jason. Everyone on that team is more replaceable than him.
Yeah.
Like
but what if he wanted to replace Down, right? Let's say cadian wanted to replace Down. Let's just say, yeah, but let's say that was the case. Like I don't know. I'm talking about us here. But I've just picked quote unquote the best player on the team, right?
Yeah.
So okay, let's say cadian goes, well, this guy, he's not good enough in the big matches. He doesn't show up for us. We need to get rid of him. We need someone else. And let's say they wanted to replace someone else as well. But that's the thing. Obviously, that's where the power struggle in the team would come from. If he just said, I just want to replace Tessus, then maybe it's all fine. But if he's wanted to go for more aggressive and core level changes, well, I could have. I just want to replace. But this is why I think that it has to be something that was going to be more.
But that's exactly the point. If that's the case, fucking do it. Get rid of Stone. Fuck him. Like, you need cadian more.
But that's why it must be the team not believing in cadian stuff anymore. That's what that tells me.
Yeah, but that's also like, okay, you guys believe that. So which one of you is going to take hold?
Yeah, step up. Exactly. So what's the plan? Is it coming from Exist? Does Exist like have a plan on now who they're going to get as an in-game leader? Is the team now like completely fucked and in turmoil?
He's going to pull like, a dash. He's stepping in.
The best thing that like could happen to those heroic players now is, I don't know, grab 2 or 3 of them and go plug them over there with Device and Blame F. That's the best way to get yield out of those players now.
Could be sick.
Like, but unless who are you going to bring in as a Danish in-game leader?
There's always some guy that we've never heard about that's like insane.
Bird from Sky.
I heard I heard Bubsky and Kierby and Pimp talking on the desk yesterday during Blast that they were like, as Danes, we all know there's no real promising up and coming in-game leaders in Denmark. Like that was something they said on the desk, and I don't know how tuned in they are to the scene. Danish? You know, I picked it up over the years.
In between his English lessons. Yeah. It's hard for Americans.
Yeah. But I don't know. That would be interesting if that was like the new wrinkle that we're missing. If Astralis was trying to grab a couple of players from Heroic and cadian just said like, fuck it, I'm out. Like, I can't rebuild this. That would be an interesting angle.
Well, this is one of the things.
I mean, the tweet that said Heroic is losing cadian. Also, I mean, I don't know this guy, and I don't know if he's how trustworthy or accurate he's been over the years. But his tweet was minus cadian, Tessus will stay, which implies that Tessus was the other player that was being kind of eyeballed as that man out of the team.
Yeah, that made sense.
Yeah, but still, yeah. Well, Harami, I think it is. So I don't know where people get this information from, and he doesn't land on all of them. And there's also it's Counter-Strike, and I would hope that things aren't done like they were done back in the day, where it was like Steam and WhatsApp type conversations between different sects of people, right? Like
or Skype.
And I was saying not SEX, I think it's SECTS. Is that the correct? But either way, groups of people having these type of conversations, like and there'd be like power struggles in teams. There'd be like a couple of guys, maybe you were the swing vote. I remember it used to be like fucking Survivor. Like back in the day when you were trying to make roster changes and you're like, oh, do we cut this guy? Oh, shit, I can bring these two guys in, which will keep this guy happy. It's obviously now with contracts and things are a lot pricklier. There's more negotiating that I imagine goes in on the business level. But in terms of players wanting to play with other people and being happy with how these things all move out, I'm sure those conversations still happen. To what degree, I don't know. But that's also why some of these people who, I don't know how they get this information. I don't know who, like they must have, some insider sources, or they're in some fucking team speak, or they're talking to someone who's talking to someone. But there is probably a lot of chats that go on at these events. And it's kind of how it used to be back in the good old days when players used to hang out a little bit more, that you would be able to pick up some of this information. Now you don't really see too much of it. But there's been a lot of things that have happened, and I imagine there's going to be a lot more things to happen over the next coming weeks and months with this whole transition into CS2 and the uncertainty. Because like if there is a Danish shuffle, that can have very deep ramifications, I would imagine. Because they speak English so well, so they can go to any international team anyway. That's one of the perks of being a fucking Dane, I guess.
I'm reading this HLTV interview with cadian and
the Dexerto interview with cadian on HLTV?
On HLTV, yes, excuse me. Sorry about that. Wanted some changes, and some people wanted a different way. I think the roster changes would have made us more competitive in the big tournaments and the big stages, and they saw it in a different way. And it would not have created the right fundamentals for the future if we met somewhere in the middle. So he was trying to make some changes to the roster.
Get rid of the fucking, cut out the cancer, man. That's what he was trying to do. And they told him, you have to take chemo for like a year long. He's like, chemo fucking sucks, bro. I don't want this. And he's gone.
It is now like I think the position that he finds himself in with the Zonic move, I don't know what Zonic and cadian's relationship would be like, but I also look at this Falcons team right now as it is, and they have MHL as their AWPer, and I don't think MHL is bad, but if they wanted to bring in like a proven in-game leader and AWPer, cadian would be a good place to start. So as far as cadian's position that he's found himself, not terrible. He's actually found it, especially with all these moves that are going on right now, it is a good time for him to be in the breeze.
I think cadian's in a great place, despite being unemployed. But, he's going to have like a pick of teams, and he can actually just kind of sit and grind CS2 on his own and take it on his own individual pace and level. And then kind of pick and choose teams based off how it's playing out. Like he gets to kind of sit back and just like be an observer to like the early stages of CS2 and make a decision from there with how he feels like the game is going to develop and how he feels, which players are going to be strong. I think he's in a fine place. I think Heroic is going to, they might be fine short term in terms of staying in the rankings where they're at. But I think long term, by the time the major rolls around, I think this team is going to be a shadow of itself unless they have some kind of absolutely banger roster move to replace cadian.
Yeah, and this is where I guess we'll also get to see how the team functions without someone as polarizing as Casper, right? Like someone who is just the front and face of the team all the time. So that's going to be an interesting juxtaposition.
Who's going to interview? Who's going to do it?
Well, they can all do it. They can all, they can all
step up to the plate.
They just haven't, because that is the thing. Like that resentment, I imagine, could build. Like if they, but that's I guess why I agree with Janko a little bit more, that the way that team looked and everything that it's been built on, based on the stuff that they went through with all the Hunden situation or the online stuff, and then there's been a lot of ups and downs. They've been the villain together. If they have been faking that fucking brotherhood that feels represented, especially with the relationship with like Stown and Cadian, for example, like they've always seemed to have like a very strong kind of relationship with everything that's happened there. That would be very surprising.
I have found a rhythm for making both of those roles work, talking about OP and IGL, but for the perfect fit, I would be willing to separate the roles.
Yes. So he has stated that he could just go and do either job. I imagine he's probably more valuable to a lot of teams as the in-game leader piece initially, and then if it is a perfect fit or a team that they were going to build with him in mind, then in-game leader or would make the most sense, right? So, yeah. What else has happened?
Interesting times.
Anything else has really happened?
Snax is back.
Yeah, Snax is back.
Why though?
He's going to in-game lead. Striker was telling me that he received offers previously to in-game lead in English, but he wanted to make sure his level of English was better before accepting like a good offer.
So he finished his course at Pasha London School.
Yeah, I think that's half of the meme. But yeah, he has been like on and off doing these different mixes over a while. Has Snax like. Let Us Cook was one of those. He's played with a bunch of different nationalities and teams, and he's 30 now. So even though Snax still was one of these like early names at the tip of our tongue, he's 30 and he's looking at in-game lead. He played with like what was the Pompa, which was like a couple of Polish guys. Han was in there. That was one of his more recent teammates. So I guess now he feels more confident leading in English. And that's going to be interesting to see how they, because Nealon being gone, like I don't think Nealon was bad. So there obviously was something there that they didn't like, because Nealon being removed and Snax coming in, they already had a replacement ready and raring to go by the seams of things. But that one there, I don't know. Gamer Legion have an overinflated ranking based off of their major performance, right? And that is currently still being course corrected. So for me, Gamer Legion aren't like a massive talking point. I'm just a little bit of an elitist like that, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
What else has been going on?
I don't know. We've ended up afar from where we started.
The video stepped down.
Davideus stepped down from 9Z.
That was interesting. I read his thing in the native tongue on Twitter when he tweeted it, but I didn't understand.
You reading out Spanish?
Well, no, I translated it, but I didn't quite realize that he was stepping down in the translation. Like it didn't read. At no point did it get translated to be like, "Yo, I'm out." So that just showed you how bad the translation was. But there was different stuff about like pursuing like life goals and happiness, and I was like, how fucking old is this guy? Like he's only 23. So I guess the level of livelihood that you can make as a member of 9Z isn't that big. That's what that tells me.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about this. I mean, I was really disappointed, bro, to see best of ones in Sydney. Like, it's like, come on, man, isn't this the point like of this thing? And I understand there's like logistics and this and that, but just figure it out. Like, we should be able to like, even if it's one more day of B stream or I don't know what it is, like, kind of you can't have with the current economy a best of one MR12. That just. Ridiculous.
Especially going all the way to Australia, that's the bit that I think, like I have less of an issue with it than you do, just because it is the first, and I'm sitting there thinking of all the fuckulation that could go wrong. But then I'm thinking, but we're going all the way to Sydney. And as someone who is an Australian, I'm still thinking, fuck, we're going all the way to Sydney.
You can't be making the tournament format in a way because you're anticipating like tech issues and like
No, not at all. But they haven't updated their format, right? Like they've just gone, okay, well we were playing CS:GO, which was MR15. Now we're playing CS2, which is MR12, and we're going to keep things the same. Like this is something that definitely has to be readdressed.
Yeah, I know, but the lack
same with
of
majors.
presence of mind from anyone to also realize it's the first LAN in CS2. You know, like you have a unique opportunity, and sure, let's say like IEMs, those sort of IEMs, they're not Katowice and Cologne, are smaller, and that's why they're shorter, and the format is different. Okay, and you don't want to change that for the future completely, maybe, even though you shouldn't have best of ones in MR12. It's such a big tournament, period. But just change it for the first one. I mean, that's your last one this year anyway, and just do it. Like, it just feels ridiculous because playing in those, it's like so hard if you lose the opening game. You have to win 3 best of 3s.
Yeah, only one team can come through that lower bracket, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it is very condemning in the format the way it is. If the format was done slightly differently and it wasn't as condemning, then maybe it could. Yeah, okay. With that in mind, Janko, yeah, I'm getting even more of what you're saying. Like, I was with you, but now I'm with you more.
Yeah.
That is frustrating, and I think that's something that will have to be readdressed. There is something that I do want to see, though, and I would love it if there was like public data available. Maybe there is. Maybe one of our listeners can let us know. But I would love to see what the aggregate length of MR12 matches have been so far, just using the matchmaking data or the FACEIT data that's out there, because there's
going to be a 20-minute game somewhere in the schedule.
Yes, of course. Well, if it's a stomp, definitely so. But I think high-level Counter-Strike will still play out like 45 minutes, right? Like a game that goes the distance, probably 45 minutes for a match with good teams who are playing like fundamentally sound CS, not just running through smokes like apes,
right.
Not just fucking like holding W and, trying to finish the rounds on first spawn timings. Like, if teams are actually playing out util, smokes last longer now. I know we have the nade thing, but still smokes last longer now. I still think that an average game time of good teams, especially if we get like a VP or a Cloud9 in the server, going to play out at roughly 45 minutes. Because I even have some of my matches, and those are matches that have gone a little bit longer, between like 40 and 50 minutes. I want to be able to. This should be the big conversation for the community right now. Definitely, like, how does the game feel? But on the competitive standpoint of how the game functions in terms of the economy. But also at the moment, people aren't even playing the game on like a giga high level. Like, I'm watching some of these DreamHack Jönköping qualifiers, and most of them are mixers. And the ones that aren't, these teams are still just trying to grasp the basic fundamentals and concepts of the game that feels foreign to them because it's new, or their PC's not as good, or their ping's not as good, or whatever. Like, they're still just trying to make the game feel like Counter-Strike to them, so they're not worried about like, what are the new spawn timings? What is the best flash, as opposed to like, what is current meta flash? Right? What is the best flash for the game as it is now? Like, all of those things are what we're going to be learning, and a big part of that will impact how MR12 plays, right? Like, what advantages or what shortcuts of the best decisions a teams and individuals going to find possible with what's available now, and that's going to be another thing that happens on steroids, I hope. But
I mean, I think it's going to happen super quick. Like, I think the first tournaments next year, we're going to see a bunch of new stuff. Like, maybe not towards the end of this year, but with how hardcore and how much more professional it is than the early days of CSGO, like, that shit's all going to get figured out very, very fast.
At least you'd hope, though, right? Like, I know that sometimes, we mentioned it before with the Krieg and the Org, but also I remember Dust 2 getting reintroduced into the map pool, and a lot of teams in the beginning, they weren't just playing like a standard like 3 long and then peeling back and like playing 1-1-1. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was like, what's going on? People forgot what we were doing in the meta before the map was released, and now we're kind of relearning it, even though it's the same map, just reskinned. So I think that's going to be something as well, just to see like how cognizant players are of looking like, because to be honest, I can see, and I've also had some.
Do you think the new CS2 is going to cause a few upsets at Sydney?
It should do. I don't see how it, like.
I'm wondering, like, is it close enough to the point where the top teams are still going to be able to just kind of beat down these squads?
So what would we consider Bet Boom beating Vitality as an upset?
Yes.
Okay, well, that is very possible. A team with Zorti, Siren, Charon, Danisters, and Nafany going up against Vitality. Like,
I guess also like the nature of the upset matters too, right? Like, is there some trick they've discovered in CS2, or have they figured out how to use nades into smokes better than the other?
But we don't know if Zywoo is still Zywoo in CS2, right? Like, we don't know what the bar, like, we don't know if Simple is still Simple. Well, we don't know what the caliber of these players is until we see them playing the new game.
I think Zywoo is going to be mostly fine, considering he plays a shit ton with the AKs, right? Like, the hard thing about Oppers transferring over right now, the conversation is the sub-tick and the wide swings are so strong against Oppers.
Yeah, when that's another thing. LAN CS2.
So, like, I mean, I could see someone like Device having a hard time adjusting, since he's mostly a classical fundamental opper that just kind of holds angles.
Yeah, I would, but that I suppose though, I'm also thinking about things like the puzzle that the top players are solving now, right, is about, okay, most openings are pretty well known by the top teams. Use Inferno as a good example for openings, right? Like it's really standard to have like a car molly and then maybe a HE into car just to make sure they don't swing out with a 147 flash. Then if they like deep molly, you do the smoke on the T side that covers off between logs and broom. It buys you a buffer zone. The CT is a bit more scared to push down, right? So you just have these like exchanges that go back and forth, and all the top level pros understand how to make these choices really quickly. But now that there are things that are more optimal than others, but we don't know what they are just yet, it adds like a level of randomness to this early, where things are going to be more like intuition or more like random. You're going to be able to catch people off guard with gimmicks that they may be not expecting early on in the game, which is also going to put us in a weird position. Like, how much of the game can you play in a 2 to 3 week time span to make it feel at home? Does it feel, what are the also other factors? Like, this is something that we will need to talk about at events again, and we haven't had to do this for years, but the quality of PCs at events, right? The quality of the PC now in Sydney is going to directly correlate with how good these pros are feeling when they go and play. Some of them at home maybe have 360 hertz monitors and 40 90s or 40 80s or 30 90s, right? Whereas they might go to a tournament and these PC specs, which is just the case, it's going to take a while for them to be able to catch up with what's necessary.
They can't just upgraded for
they
CS2. Did? They were testing it out, I think, in Dallas.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's good news.
With players, yeah.
All right, well then,
I mean,
the
PCs
I don't know if it's for Sydney or for next year, though, but I imagine they will roll out it for Sydney because the game is more demanding.
Yeah,
the PCs they had in Malta Pro League that they gave us in the hotel rooms ran CS2 fine, I thought.
Nah,
okay.
I don't know. I wasn't playing on it.
It was a noticeable difference for me back home.
Yeah, and Jason, you're not on a 4090, so it's hard for you to feel the power.
True. I don't have that. I'm sitting on some pleb 2019 PC
as well.
Yeah, sorry. Like you know, Jason, we just got the smooth experience.
See now I need a PC upgrade. Now it's settled. I just got fucking battered for no good reason.
I might be able
having
to help
a 4090.
you out with that.
My man.
See, there you go. You
At
got the hookup.
or something.
Guys, I need to go to a meeting in 15 minutes. Jason,
Yeah, I have to
leave?
shower. I have to leave for Dinko's in the next.
I have
15
to
minutes.
fucking wear this hangover out.
Okay. Well, we can pick this up again at another point. We're back to, I guess we can leave this now at the end of the podcast, but we're back to audio only for a little while in Sydney. We'll try and do some stuff there, and then after that it'll probably be audio only for a while until early next year, I imagine. Yeah, okay. Gentlemen, upload it to the Google Drive, send it to me. I'm at home. I will add this, and we'll get it online.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
See ya.
Yeah.